To give some reference, I have not played season 1.5 as much as I wish I could have, but I've been watching a ton. So this is just me kind of coming up with my thoughts just based off what I've been seeing, the bit that I've been playing, and just as a whole, my thoughts. I don't think the season I think the meta shifted a fair bit, but more so in the sense that it only shifted due to just slight, not really slight nerfs, but overall just changes to the characters. Like there were some dramatic changes to some characters that really dropped them off, but a lot of the meta I feel like stayed similar to what I had previously made for season 1. However, I do think that it has changed in terms of like, unlike the higher end, I think there's a lot more things that have been established in terms of like what's really good and what's not, what is not favored and what isn't. So I think the meta has established itself a little bit more. More things have fallen, in my opinion, have fallen down, while one or two things have reclaimed some thrones. So I'm gonna start off with Magneto. Magneto, I think, has just kind of taken Strange's role as the shield tank. In general, the Magneto's role as a defensive anchor tank has been pretty much just untouched and has only really gotten stronger as he's gotten, I believe he got like a slight damage buff. So now just being more deadly while also consistently being just safe. I know that I believe they also nerfed his bubble a little bit, but that coupled with the overall drop in Strange's survivability has really lent itself to him becoming just the best tank in general as that anchor tank. Magneto also has become one of the primary ways to destroy very important ultis via either stopping the incoming damage or just straight up taking support ults out of the map by themselves. His ulti being a just straight up support counter, assuming you can land it, has been it's just been like astronomically insane in terms of not only just high level play, but I think just general play as a whole. I don't think Magneto's a very like super difficult character. The hardest thing when it comes to Magneto, I think, is just probably using your shields in like a ranked environment when the communication might not be as great. So keeping an eye out for your divers or things like that, who to protect with your shield and whatnot might be like the hardest play. But in general, like hitting your ultis and stuff like that, Magneto gets a shit ton of value. So I'm gonna put Magneto up here, just straight up top. Best tank in the game, I would say. For number 2, when it comes to Groot, I think Groot is rather situational. In a ranked environment, I would put him somewhere around A, mainly because of the fact that I think Groot as a whole requires a lot more coordination than some of the other picks, right? A lot of Groot's value does come from seemingly those like combo ults. He combos with so many of like the really good picks at the moment, and he not only combos with that, but he has an insane amount of damage output, right? So I would put him probably around A, but realistically up here in the S tier with Magneto, if you kind of look at the whole landscape of the game, right? If you are looking at high level tournament play, he is one of the best tanks, if not sought after as probably like the best tank. He is constantly banned, and he combos with all of the meta picks. Combos with Namor, combos with Bucky. He probably honestly still combos with like Hela in some way, if you really think about it. There's still that for the Moon Knight players, they still combo with Moon Knight. Like Groot opens up so much for your team as a whole. I just think when it comes to rank, he would probably fit more in like the A section. But I think if you look at the whole landscape of not just rank, but also competitive team landscapes as well as high elo games, Groot is very much just up there as one of the best, if not second best tank in the game at the moment. For Strange, as we talked about it a little bit with the Magneto stuff, Strange really just does not feel as strong as he used to, especially with how good Groot is at the moment and how good Magneto is. Those two characters just kind of outshine him at the moment. They live longer. They have their ultis are probably a little easier as a whole to just kind of play around. Strange ult has to hit big ones. Not really, but Strange ult takes, I feel like it takes a little bit more to really get the value out of, in the same way that you would with Groot or Magneto. Not to say that the Strange ult is bad. Strange ult is still one of like the better team-oriented ultis, and I don't mind having a Strange in my team at all. Double shield is still one of like the better team comps. It's just that right now, with all of the buffs that he's got, or all of the nerfs that he's gotten, he got a shield nerf, I believe, and a HP nerf on top of the Gamma team up dropping as well. I just don't think he's all that great anymore in terms of just how much he can actually do when you compare him to Magneto and Groot. I still think he's up there though. I think a great Strange player in ranked can make him look insane. In ranked, it is a lot more viable, I would say, compared to the overall landscape, which would include something like a high level tournament play. But I think when you compare everything, when you compare them to the Magneto and the Groot, I think Magneto and Groot are just so much better at the moment that I would probably put Strange in like the A, like sometimes S if you're strictly thinking like in majority of ranks. I think Strange can still be like an S tier, but I think in the grand scheme, he's still just an A tier character at the moment. The Thing, when The Thing came out, I thought he was really cool. I think he still is. A lot of people are still playing him. He's seeing play in tournament play as well. If anybody watches, things like the Rivals Fight Night and the current Marvel Rivals Invitational going on, Thing is getting a lot of play. He's seeing a lot of play alongside Venom when things like the Groot are banned for the second tank role. Really, he just gets a lot of value. He shits on dive, which honestly, if you're playing ranked, ranked demons like their dive characters. If you're a tank player, just pick up the Thing. As long as you're not solo tanking, I think the Thing destroys in ranked. He just kind of stops all of the pesky Black Panther players, all of the Magik players. As a Magik player myself, I really hate going against this guy. People also, they like to think of him as a good Wolverine counter, which, in my opinion, I think Wolverine has a better matchup against the Thing than most people think, mainly because Wolverine is still insane. His damage output is still, really high. And in certain situations, you can still use the Kidnap on the Thing. The only difference is that the Thing instantly falls to the ground, so it's essentially just a insta-stun button on the Thing. So in some situations, as long as you're not overextending yourself, you just press the grab on Thing and he gets stunned for free and you go straight into damage. So I don't think he's as big of a counter to Wolverine as people might think. However, I do think that he is, against most Wolverine players that aren't thinking, I'm going to be honest, Wolverine is a very face roll character for some people. They're probably not trying to deal with the Thing and grabbing it and trying to think of that matchup like that. So I think the Thing in general is really good. He's definitely up there. We're seeing a lot more, people straying away from the double shield compositions to include, Magneto Groot, Magneto Thing, and Magneto Venom, stuff like that. And for that, I do think that the Thing is probably also an A tier alongside Strange. I think in general, the Thing has a lot of value just into his damage output, the things he stops, pretty much every movement ability in the game for the most part. I think in general, every movement ability with his, dash or whatever it's called, where he sets that earthbound thing. Just in general, Groot gets a lot of value, a lot of damage. The only thing is when it comes to ranked is there's a lot of just feeding Groots, or not Groots, sorry, feeding thing players that just run in there, take 1,000,000 damage, have to run out, and then they're useless. But can't, you can't avoid those all the time. That's just a inevitability of tank players, of any sort of players. You're bound to get your feeders with them. Yeah, so far, Magneto in the S tier, Groot in the S tier, Strange in the A tier, Thing in the A tier. Moving on to Venom. With the Venom buffs and with the release of the Thing, I had the initial impression that I could see a world where people would run a dive composition consisting of a main core of Venom, Thing, and Spider-Man. Did that come true? Not as much. However, it is being seen out there. I have seen it in some games. But I wouldn't say it's like particularly meta at all. I think the Spider-Man still has some stuff to be left to be desired. The Thing is still really good against dive in general, so the Thing makes that team comp even a little difficult to play. However, I do still think Venom by himself is a really good off tank now. He has a lot of good one-shot potential with his ulti. Like, more people are kind of coming to the fact that like he can just one-shot with his ulti now, and he can combo with Luna to guarantee the one-shot. I believe it even one-shots through support ults. The thing that's stopping Venom, I think, from being like super good as well is just in ranked as a whole. When you're playing with the randoms, many of them who may not communicate, Venom can struggle. I think Venom, when it comes to just dive in general, I think Venom and dive as a whole are a very communication oriented kind of strategy, where you need like a Magneto should be watching you just in case they need to bubble you. Like, you need your divers to be in sync with you to make sure that targets die when you can't one-shot them, right? Venom, though, has a lot of self-sustain, though, so in those situations you are able to survive so much. Venom has amazing survivability. The only thing that does make it hard for Venom sometimes is, things like the Thing and Invisible Woman, which Invisible Woman is a pretty popular pick right now as well. Invisible Woman can stop his exit in after his initial dive if she doesn't die. Things like that. It's just kind of like the playstyle. But overall, I think Venom and Thing kind of sit in the same role, and they just survive. They deal a lot of damage. They can deal with a lot of things just overall in terms of what they need to kill, what they need to do as a whole. They very much run the same role, the same position in the game. So for that, I do think that Venom is going to sit up here in the A slot. I think these three are all very similar in a sense. Mainly Venom and the Thing, though, they kind of do the same job. And then Venom also opens you up for more dive-oriented strats when you do have those Spider-Man players on your team. And a good combo is just always very deadly, very scary. But Venom, his buffs on his damages and stuff like that, changes to his ult, and I believe the dive now as well. All of that just really comes together and just made this character a lot scarier and just has a lot more potential as a whole than he did in previous seasons. Moving on to the Hulk. The Hulk, I think, really lost his thunder in terms of just a viability, mainly due to the fact that his Gamma team up has dropped. It becomes less valuable of a pick when the Thing and Venom don't need that team up and probably survive longer than the Hulk as a whole. The Hulk still gives some, damage boosting to like things like Strange and the Iron Man, but they're kind of negligible buffs now, mainly due to those nerfs. I think the Hulk as a whole just kind of lost his role to Venom and the Thing, and they just do his job a lot better. They just do the job a lot better. They survive better. They deal damage more consistently. And there's just so much peel in the game that playing the Hulk just feels... probably doesn't feel as good for the Hulk players. I'm pretty sure the Thing even shuts down his jump, which is a a little unfortunate. But yeah, as a whole, the Hulk just hasn't gotten a lot of value, and I'll probably put him down here and be. I think a good Hulk can still do a lot of work. I think Hulk with Strange is still relatively good. It's just not as good as the other picks though. Thor. I think Thor has also similarly kind of dropped in value. He just doesn't have the mobility and the overall utility that some of the other tanks do. His damage output is still really good, I would say, but he just doesn't do the same in terms of like applying pressure when you compare him to things like the Thing and Venom and Groot. All of these off tanks just apply pressure a lot better. The ulti is just harder to get value from. It's just another damage ulti, you know. It's not like utility in any way. Doesn't help him survive longer. It's just very unfortunate for Thor at the moment. He's very selfish tank, I would say. But in rank, I think you can get away with it, because in rank, selfish playstyles you can get away with. It's just as a whole, when you think about it, nobody's picking him. Even now that Hela is probably one of the better picks, and same with Loki, nobody's picking Thor just for the team up, you know, like it's just very unfortunate there. All right. So for Thor as a whole, I will also put him in the B. I think him and Hulk land in a very similar spot, maybe even C, but I don't think C and D are probably like the really unfortunate characters, I would say. I think a lot of people will probably be in the B section, but we'll see. Peni Parker, I think last time I put her like very, very low. I forgot exactly how low, but I think she was rough. I think I put her like C tier, right? I simply think that she's there again. She had I heard that she had a pretty bad bug or something like that caused her minds to be even worse. But I played her a fair bit more since my last tier list, and I think that Peni can be good in certain situations, but the problem is the more situational the character, I feel like the worse the character becomes as a whole, which it just creates a very difficult kind of situation for some of these characters, because like you don't want your character to be situational and then dependent on the player as well, and I think that's what Peni suffers from the most. She's very situational, and then the only people that are doing Peni justice are Peni players, and they're like Peni one tricks, like the really high elo Peni one tricks, right? Like shouts out to Cringe Alarm, like that guy's insane, right? Like he's getting a lot of value off that, and I think there was a guy named Primo as well that also plays him. But yeah, like I think right now Peni she just kind of dies to everything. It's very easy to deal with her. The setups, you have to be knowledgeable of your setups. It's not like a very like simple pick up and play kind of character. It can be for probably like lower elos, but I think like once you start getting to like mid to high elo, it's just not as effective unless you are one of those like Peni one tricks. For that, I think I'll put her again in the C tier. I just think she's very unfortunate. She has a lot of things that can, in an ideal world, be like really good, but the problem is you need an ideal world. And I almost forgot Captain America for the tanks. I think tank for Captain America he's also in a very rough spot. He just doesn't do much. He doesn't really kill anything. He's another like situational and specialist kind of character, where the only real people that are getting value on Captain America are Captain America players. Not as easy to pick up and play. He just doesn't get as much value, and I would also put him right next to Peni in that same respect of just kind of, he's just too situational, way too oriented around the fact that the Captain America players are the Captain America players, and other people aren't really picking him, and those Captain America players aren't making him super broken. I feel like when I see like Captain America specialists as a whole, they're doing their thing, but they're not making as many people go like wow, you know. But yeah, I think as a whole, when compared to the rest of the tanks, Captain America is just not doing it for most people. At most, I would probably put Captain America like B tier, but I don't think he's as good as Thor or the Hulk, so gotta put him down in the C tier. I don't think they're within equal realms, but I wouldn't say they're too far from each other. This isn't, this isn't like oriented in a specific order, but I think if I was to put it in an order, it would probably be similar to how I have it like this. The only one that I would probably swap is somewhere between these two. These two are kind of equal, but I'm not too sure where I would prefer one or the other. In terms of playstyle, I probably prefer Venom over the Thing, but I think that's just kind of like a player thing. But between Captain America and Penny Parker, I probably prefer Captain America, even though I enjoy Penny Parker more. I will say that. All right, and I think that's it for the tanks. Let's move on to the. I mean, let's do the supports, because the DPS are. There's a whole lot of. Let's start off with Cloak and Dagger. I think Cloak and Dagger fell off a cliff, which is very unfortunate. I think she was really good in season 1, and then got dropped pretty hard after her nerfs. Unfortunately, they just kind of gutted her. They gave her that extra 4th movement in her ulti, but it's just not enough. She doesn't match the healing output as I would say Luna, Invisible Woman, and Loki have, and she's a good replacement once they're all out of the picture, as you might see in some of like the higher like tournament plays when a lot of supports are being banned. But I just don't think she's that great for that. I would probably put her somewhere around. I'd put her in the B tier, I think, right now. I'd put her in the B tier mainly because she is such a like an afterthought pick in terms of like when you go down the line of what I think are the best supports. If all of those options are out, then you would play Cloak. And I think that's kind of where B kind of stands in. B is probably a good spot where it's like you're really good at the hero, it's just your preferred hero, or you're out of options. Jeff, I think Jeff is funny little guy, but Jeff falls into that kind of position of he's just not that great. He's only really good in a triple support composition. He can play like that triple support where he is like the 3rd DPS if you pair him up with like a Luna. But like as a whole, I don't think he's that great as so for him, I'm gonna just put him down here in the C tier. Like Jeff is another one of those situational guys. Jeff players are gonna play him, but he's just not. He's not healing. He's not providing as much value as some of these other higher rated supports. He's not doing what Cloak is doing. He's not doing what Luna's doing. He's not doing what Invisible Woman's doing. And he's not doing what Loki's doing. And his pairings with the other supports are a lot worse when you think about it, right? I feel like if you pair, like you can't pair a Loki with a Jeff. Like that is just, I feel like that's just throwing the game right off the bat, given that even though Loki's one of the better supports, pairing him with a Jeff is just kind of a death sentence in my opinion. You can't really pair him with like an Adam Warlock in the same way. Like you can pair him with the Luna, like sure you can maybe pair him with like Invisible Woman, but you would have Luna and Invisible Woman doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. And I just think his home really is just in triple support compositions where you have a really good Jeff player on your team and Luna is open and you can give him the power to just be a DPS. Let's talk about Luna. Luna is probably never going to leave this stoop unless she gets a very heavy nerf. Luna is just by far and away one of the best, if not the best support at the moment. She combos really well with some of the best DPS picks in the, Namor, not just giving him the team up, but giving him the one shot with the whale and power boost combo, right? That is just killing through support ults, killing through a lot of stuff. Just as a whole, doesn't even need to directly hit the whale, I believe, with the attack buff that she provides. It's just a lot of value that she provides to the entire team as a whole. Just enables a lot of things overall. She's also just a really good pick with Loki, right? Getting double, Luna ult for 24 seconds throughout the match is just really broken. And yeah, Luna just top spot 100%. Let's talk about Adam Warlock. I think Adam Warlock got really good. However, I do think he's still really situational, which I think makes him overall a pretty middle of the pack to kind of high tier pick, I would say. The reason being is just mainly like, I think Adam Warlock is really good when you're running the triple res composition, and the triple res composition is one of the best compositions in the game right now. I just don't think a lot of people are running that, right? Especially in like the ranked game modes. It's just not something that a lot of just people are going to be doing. I think Adam Warlock is very reliant on player skill as well, which is why I think you see it more in team tournament play than you do in like rank as a whole. All of these characters that are in that triple res comp, I would say, are relatively higher skill in the sense that you need to be hitting your shots. Starlord as a whole is a like rather difficult character for some people to pick up, and it's just like the value isn't there as much as it would be on like higher tier players, right? So like at high rank, Adam Warlock is probably really good if you have a really good Adam and you have like a good Mantis and a good Starlord to team up with, and then like another like third support, so you can run the triple support and kind of make up for everything. And these guys like Mantis and Adam get to play a little bit more aggressive. Starlord gets his res. You get to just constantly like res through your passives and then res through Adam ulti, and then you have, you know, survivability through the Adam, the damage reduction thing from the Adam. It's just so Adam is really good and gets a lot of utility, but I think as a whole in the grand scheme of ranked, I kind of want to put him in the A tier just because of what he's able to open up, but at the same time I kind of want to put him in the I think A tier. I think A tier because just simply based off the fact that Adam opens up a lot for situations where you do lend a hand to Mantis, you do lend a hand to Starlord. All the team ups are really good in high competitive play. It's probably one of the better team comps, drawing bans itself against some of the Adam players, and just as a whole with his damage buffs and just like a good Adam is like really good as a whole. And I think the team ups and just overall what he opens up just generally is a plus. He is a little bit more situational, which is why I kind of had a feeling of putting him down in the B. But I just think right now with the triple res composition being one of the best in the game, I just don't think he's really down with Cloak. I think Cloak is definitely a character that's like, if all of my options are out, I will play Cloak. Adam is a character where it's like I'm building around that, right? And while it may not happen all the time, when you do build around it, it's really fucking good. So Loki has shot up like crazy. I think the nerfs to pretty much everybody else's, you know, old generation and all that really helped them out at just kind of becoming more of a mainstay support rather than what he probably formerly was as more of that third support. Just being able to copy whoever he really wants to and just always having value off of having that extra support ult is just insane. A lot of survivability in terms of, you know, the lamps are really annoying. Just kind of the clones doing everything as well. Just a lot of healing output when the Loki is really good. And just as a whole, his utility is really insane. Can really tailor the ultimate usage to whatever fits the situation. At high, like in high competitive play, when it comes to like team oriented stuff and just high elo, you'll probably you will more than often see the Loki, you know, just copying the other support and using another defensive ulti. And but I do think that there are situations where he can copy, you know, like a Strange ult or a Groot ult or another Magneto ult or something like that. And these situations, while very niche, I think oftentimes can lead to really good wins when you do use it like that. It just really comes to ensuring that when you are doing it, it is a situation where you know that you won't need another support ult for a while, right? Or like it's like the end of the match and you think that you know, a big Strange ult will probably hit, or like a Magneto ult is needed here and you don't necessarily have one, while also maybe having your support ult available, like your other support ult available. But I think Loki as a whole is just really, really good. He's propelled up massively, and yeah, just overall is a pretty insane pick right now for the support role. Moving on to let's do Invisible Woman. I think Invisible Woman is definitely the third best support. I think she fits pretty much everywhere in terms of like, she can fit everywhere that I would say Luna fits, with the exception of like team up specifics, right? So like, you don't want Invisible Woman instead of a Luna if somebody's playing Namor. You can have her alongside it, but you might want something like a Loki instead. I think that Luna or Invisible Woman is just the really good third option, and for that I would probably put her up. In the S tier, mainly because Luna is very often banned, and if you ban Luna, you're almost always going to pick Invisible Woman second alongside Loki, unless you have a player who like wants to play Adam and you want to go for that comp. But then at which case you probably will play the Invisible Woman as the third support anyway, so alongside Adam and Mantis. So I think like that's like a good fit. She's definitely top 3, and heavy-handedly give her the third spot when it comes to the top 3. I think Luna and Loki you can swap between, even though I think Luna etches Loki out for the best support. But I think when you think past that, it's almost always Invisible Woman and then everything else. She also deals with a lot of popular picks, right? So she deals with Strange. She can make that guy's ult almost never hit. She has relatively decent anti-dive with her push. I think her push and her pull is probably her best ability, if I'm going to be honest. Like, of course, she has like really good healing with like, you know, her shield thing, like her ulti and stuff, like all that's really good. But if you like utility wise, the utility of the push and pull is so good that it can guarantee kills, it can stop engagements as a whole, it just straight up shuts down Strange if you're really looking at him all the time. It's really good. It screws over Venom when he tries to come in and then tries to leave. It's really good as a whole. The struggle she has, I think, is just kind of self-sufficiency. Like, she struggles surviving by herself a lot. Like, yeah, she has like the double jump away and like the invisibility to kind of heal herself back up. But I think a lot of people are kind of getting better at keeping track of where you go after that invisibility happens, and it's just not as relevant anymore as it used to be. Before, you double jump, you're gone. Nobody knew what you were doing. Like, nobody knew where you were at. It was just something that you disappeared, you were gone. But now a lot of people have kind of come to it and really paid attention to where they go. A lot of these kills on the Invisible Woman are happening more often. The double jump is just not getting you out as frequent as it used to be, but she's still top 3 in my opinion. Moving on to let's do Mantis first. I think Mantis is pretty much very cut and dry. I think she goes right next to Adam Warlock in the A slot. They both just synergize really well together. Obviously, when you are picking that comp, you are rezzing, you are coming back. She's giving damage boost to whoever needs it. Her healing is all right. Her ulti, you know, she still has that wide range ulti for everybody. What makes it difficult is that her ulti is probably the easiest out of all of them to kill through, but I think she can survive a little bit more than, let's say, Cloak and Dagger, just because of the fact that she gets that movement speed. She's running around really fast, and it might be a little harder for Magneto to kill them. But still, as a whole, I think the team up is just way too good, and Mantis along Adam are just kind of, you know, 2 peas in a pod, right? Like, they're just really good together. Mantis has pretty good utility outside of it. If you're running like triple support compositions, you can get away with her just being a double support. Like, if you're running like a Luna Mantis or Invisible Woman Mantis, it may not be as good, but just still overall, I think she's still really good. A lot of damage, a lot of utility through her, and teams up really well with the Adam Warlock and the Starlord. Moving on to Rocket. Rocket, I still think when it comes to ranked, Rocket is probably the one guy you don't want to see. I think Rocket players give this character a really bad name. I think a lot of Rocket players aren't that great either. A lot of them just kind of heal bot and don't really do much else. But to be honest, I think Rocket is actually still really good. I don't think he's better than some of the ones up top. In these situations that Rocket is really good, he like really shines, right? So for example, with Groot being such a strong pick, Rocket enables things like Bucky and Punisher to pretty much instantly take down the walls. I think we're even seeing that in the Marvel Rivals Invitational, where the Rocket is being picked at times, sometimes even banned when players want to play Groot. At least is what my takeaway from the pick and ban phase, right? But just as a whole, I think Rocket's ability to really open up that infinite ammo, the extra res in ranked goes crazy because it's almost never contested. That thing is almost always up. Rocket lives really long, so it allows people to just kind of be annoying, and he does have pretty decent damage output for when you have to deal damage with him. So just overall, I think his utility is pretty nice. Same thing, you know, doing amplifier combos with some of like things that can one-shot is also really good. Amplifying through like a Groot ult or something like that is also like really sick. That kind of stuff though, I do feel takes a little bit of overall teamwork that a lot of players don't have. And I think Rocket players also, many of them just kind of don't talk, and rightfully so. I don't blame them. They get a lot of ridicule just for being Rocket players. So it's kind of like a global taunt once you pick Rocket in ranked sometimes. So I don't necessarily blame them. But it is difficult to kind of communicate those kind of combos, especially with like infinite ammo on your Bucky or something like that, so that they're aware and like get proper positioning with it. It's just really difficult, I would say, for some Rocket players. Also, you know, it's just overall like the playability of it. It's a very popular pick. I'm pretty sure the win rate is still up there, but like I said, I think Rocket as a whole, although having good utility, I think struggles from some outside factors that need to get kind of overcome before he is really high up there. He has his use cases, he has his really good utility moments and just kind of combinations, but they are a little bit more situational than some of the other ones. Very reliant on the other person, right? I think Bucky is very reliant on the rest of the players rather than being reliant on himself, mainly because of the way his abilities work. Have a lot of good utility with the res, like I said earlier. Just kind of opens up some room for error from your team, and as long as they're not using it on cooldown, then it's pretty much always up. And just I think the Bucky, Punisher, and Rocket combo is really good. It's a really good team up right now, so I do think that gives Rocket a lot of value. I think with Groot being the meta, like I mentioned, getting rid of those walls is very important. With the few times that people are running, you know, double shield, it's very good, you know, to run that combo to insta break those shields as well. I think Rocket, you know, infinite ammo on Bucky or Punisher also deals with you know, tanks like Venom and the Thing really well too, right? So I think Rocket opens a lot up. However, I do still think that just really lacking on another defensive ult is rough for situations where things get banned and, you know, you're kind of stuck with like a invisible woman or like just like a Mantis or something, and like if your other pick is a Rocket, you're not getting much done. But for all that, I do still think he's like a solid B, but I think his edge cases make some of the characters really good. I think in certain situations, Rocket can very much easily go to A or S in terms of like the very specific situations that he can be played in, right? But obviously those things don't happen all the time, especially when you think about it in like a ranked environment. Just as a whole, I think he's like a middle of the pack character. And I think that's it for the supports. The only one I'm probably not like super sure about is Adam, but I think the team up just kind of really brings it all together to really put him up top All right, moving on to the DPS. Black Panther. I think right now, Dive is at an all-time low. Dive has been slowly just more difficult to play, I feel. With the introduction of the Thing, making Dive super hard, you know, Groot being more valuable, so, you know, walls being put up, just your exits being kind of covered, Loki being a thing, Invisible Woman being a thing, like, Adam being really good as well. Just so many things that just stop you from being able to kill anybody. Mantis sleep. It's just, there's so much anti-dive at the moment. Namor, being one of like the better DPS picks, is just, it's so hard to play proper dive. That and Panther being a very high skill character really makes it difficult to play. However, Black Panther gets the value of stupidity. In ranked, if the players are bad and the players aren't actively trying to counter the Black Panther, I think Black Panther gets away with a lot. Same thing with Dive. Dive as a whole gets away with so much the lower the IQ of the enemy team is. And for that, I honestly think Black Panther is a nice solid B. I think Dive as a whole is a good alternative composition when you get past like all of the really good stuff. It's probably like if you were to put, let's say things like double shield or like Magneto Groot, and then, you know, things with like Magneto Thing and the Venom or anything like that. After all of that, then will probably come Dive. But like a really good Dive team is also just a menace, especially in ranked, right? As a whole, I think like Black Panther is just right in the middle. Good Black Panther players will make him work. Bad Black Panther players will unfortunately feed your lobby. Middle of the pack Black Panther players are a coin flip, and it just kind of depends on that day, right? But I don't think he's like super high up. I don't think he's really super low either. The Tickle Monster will be the Tickle Monster. Widow, I think Widow's unfortunately still really bad. Maybe up here, but just nobody's playing this character. No, realistically, nobody's playing this character. This character gets, you can do funny stuff with Mantis, you can do funny stuff with Hawkeye, but nobody's playing this character, and that's the most unfortunate thing, right? Like, nobody wants to pick her because she's relatively useless. The character's just not that great. It's the same problem she's had like day dot. She's just not one-shotting with headshots. She requires, you know, like a Mantis or some form of damage boost to get picks. If not, she's like a last hit bot. She needs something to deal damage already. She's just not really good compared to some of the other characters that play in similar ranges, if not like better ranges than her, right? Like, she's just not Hela. You know, Hela's a better sniper. Hawkeye's still a better sniper. She has cool one-shot stuff with Hawkeye, but unfortunately, it's just not a good character. Hawkeye is still pretty good. I think Hawkeye's solidly like an A tier, but the problem is the other picks that do his role are just kind of better. Like, Hawkeye's still really good. He applies the team up for Widow, which is kind of decent if you have a Widow one trick, right? He's still getting good shots on people. He's still able to play for picks. It's just he's not doing the same job in the same way that Hela does it. I think he will always be like one step below Hela as long as Hela is strong. Just needing the full charge or just always kind of be there just really makes it difficult for him to get as much value as he possibly could. He's just one of those characters where, unfortunately, the characters that are above him do it much better. However, he still has value. He deals with flyers really well still, as long as you can hit your shots, right? Like, he's still putting pressure on those flyers. Him and Hela just make it impossible for flyers to exist. He's still able to kill things through his ulti. I believe he can still kill through support ults sometimes. So he has his value. It's just a little rough right now, given how much better some of the other picks are. Hela is just, bro, this is one of the easiest placings of all time, dude. Hela is back to being a queen. She's back on top, bro. Even in season 1, after her slight nerf, she was probably just A tier, right? So like, she only just got better because she got she got buffed a bit, right? Apparently she might have a damage drop off bug or something, but it doesn't seem to be a bug because they probably would have patched it by now. So her damage drop is just basically like non-existent or something like that on crits. But yeah, she's just really good, deals with flyers effectively, has a wonderful team up with Loki, so your Loki's always up as long as your Hela's dealing damage and getting kills. Not dealing damage, just getting kills as a whole. She's just back to being a potential server admin. Just what can I say? The damage output, the ulti's really good. She has really good mobility. Although she can now die to flankers, she still just outranges all of them. So they have to go so out of their way to try and kill her that it's basically just not worth doing so. She's just by far probably one of the best, if not the best DPS at the moment. Iron Fist. Iron Fist is in a weird spot because they made him deal more damage to tanks, which it gaslit a couple people into thinking that he was really good now. But I think it kind of put him in a weird spot where he may not have like the greatest identity anymore because they made him deal more damage to tanks. But I think in that same right, I believe he now deals a little worse damage to squishies as a consequence. So he's in a weird middle spot where he isn't super good at killing anybody. And he's also, again, one of those things where he's a specialist character. The only real people that are doing things on the Iron Fist are the Fisters themselves, the Iron Fisters, right? Those guys are the only ones doing any real stuff with that character. And again, when your character is very situational and requires what I would say a specialist to pilot them effectively, they are objectively a worse character. You want the best characters are always the ones that have the most versatility and the most viability in terms of pickup and play. And unfortunately, Iron Fist is not one of those. And although I wouldn't put him down here with Widow, I am going to put him in the C tier. So let's talk about Iron Man. Dude, Iron Man got robbed. They changed the way the damage output for his beam. They made the numbers more closer to his gamma. But the problem is they nerfed the Gamma, so the Gamma team up is not worth it. Some of the best characters in the meta right now all deal with flyers. Adam Warlock shits on you. Hela destroys you. Luna destroys you. Mantis destroys you. Hawkeye destroys you. There's so many things up top that destroy flyers at the moment that all of the flyers are in a very difficult position to be in. And Iron Man also got changed in a way where he doesn't get away with flanking as much anymore. They changed his sounds, I believe, so he's a lot more vocal when he's flying around. So you just hear a jet engine. So you like, it's so much harder to get like sneaky flank one shots with your beam and stuff like that. He just became a lot harder to kind of get value for, just because there's so many things that deal with him effectively. Even some of the melee characters like Iron Fist, the Magik can deal with him too. They just kind of shit on him. And some of the best characters in the DPS's role, just overall, also stomp him out, which I think really drops his value down. I would put him also in the C tier. I don't think he's the worst character in the game either. I don't think he's down here with Widow. Even though he does still get worked by Widow, I think he's just down here in C in the current year of our Lord, season 1.5. Let's move on to Magik though. Magik has become a little more difficult to play as time has gone by. Dive has just particularly dropped in general. Melee characters unfortunately get screwed over by being outranged, being out-sustained, and being unable to move thanks to the thing. I think she has a lot of the same faults that Black Panther has. She's also a bit of a specialist character in the sense that a really good Magik is probably required to like take over a game. She has some upsides though. She can one-shot supports through their support ults if she has the opening for it. The hard part is getting that opening. She's very mobile. She has a pretty decent survivability. But just as a whole, these melee characters aren't doing it, right? They're just not as good at the moment. And for that, I think I'm going to put her right next to Black Panther. If this was to be ordered, I would probably put her above Black Panther in terms of just viability. But I think she's right next to Black Panther in terms of usefulness, right in the middle. I don't think she's terrible. I don't think she's super good when you consider the meta. As a Magik player, I still want to be playing this character all the time though. So to me, she's an S tier. But realistically, she's a B. Moon Knight. Moon Knight. Moon Knight. Moon Knight. Moon Knight. Moon Knight really dropped off. I believe they fixed his ulti, which was his big coming of age story in terms of the meta last season. Moon Knight just doesn't get a lot of value in the same way that other picks do right now, even with Groot being so good and Moon Knight being one of the most prominent Groot ultimates combos. I think it still works, obviously, but I think without that, Moon Knight just kind of lacks in just everything else, really. Utility, there isn't much there. His damage, there isn't much, as people are getting a lot better at dealing with the Onks. The higher you go, the Onks will probably never survive. I'd imagine he's still a bit of a menace in low ranks. Again, that's a kind of like a low rank skill issue kind of thing. But overall, I think Moon Knight has definitely dropped off. I don't think he's... The real question is, has he dropped off enough to be like below something like a Magik or a BP or somewhere in the same right? I don't think in most ranks he is there. Like, I don't think he has dropped off that far in the same sense of like Iron Man maybe. As a whole, I do think he definitely jumped off a cliff. So I kind of want to put him either B or C. I think C. I think Moon Knight has to work a little hard to try to get his value right now. And although he might get it in lower ranks, I think the higher you go, the more difficult it is. And the bar for where it starts becoming difficult for Moon Knight is a lot lower than some of the other characters, I would say. Like, Moon Knight is just a lot easier to deal with. Moon Knight is just a lot easier to pick. He's easy to deal with. You can just pick Psylocke. Psylocke destroys him. Any of the flankers deal with him pretty decently. You know, he has a really, like, the bright side is that he has a really good matchup into Loki, which is one of the best characters in the game at the moment. Just as a whole, I don't think he's just there anymore. Moving to Namor, I think Namor is one of the best characters in the game by far. We've kind of mentioned Namor passively through some of the other characters and their usefulness with Namor. Luna and Groot in particular, both of which combo really well with Namor, guaranteeing one-shots, sometimes all of them at the same time. Same thing with like Strange ult, same thing with like the Thing ult, even some cases where you can combo like the Venom knockup with Whale, stuff like that. Those are a little bit more niche, but Groot, Luna, just being able to kill through support ults is massive. And Namor is one of the most consistent ways to do so. He deals with flankers really well, deals with flyers. He's just an all-arounder that at the moment is getting so much value. Psylocke is just a very consistent character. I don't think she's broken. I don't think she's bad. She's one of the most consistent characters in the game. Deals with flyers really well. Can deal with good mid, like neutral, like just as a whole has good damage output. The ulti has a little bit to be desired in like large, like balled up team fights. She's really good at just forcing those defensive ults when needing to, and just kind of giving your other, you know, DPS a window to get their big, you know, ulti through. I think a good Psylocke player is just very useful. Just an overall super consistent pick, although I don't think she shines as high as, you know, something like a Namor or a Hela. So I'll put her in the A tier. I think she's definitely better than any of like the other melees like Magik and Panther. Has a really good matchup into definitely Magik. I'm not too sure how the matchup goes up against Panther. Psylocke is just really consistent as a whole. Scarlet. I think Scarlet is probably another character down here in the D tier. Even through her buff, where she gains a little bit more viability through being more tanky, she doesn't really do much. Actually, I think I'm gonna put her up top, like here on the C tier. The only saving grace that Scarlet has is that she's decent into dive. She's annoying for dive characters. She's annoying for like people that want to play aggressive. Her real problem is damage output. She still doesn't have a lot of damage. It's just another tickle monster. Her ulti got a little bit better with her survivability, and you can combo her ulti with like support ults or with, you know, big like Groot ults and stuff like that, and maybe like a thing ult since everybody's stunned and can't look at you. Stuff like that, like there are some promising combos for Scarlet, which I do think puts her up a little bit more in usefulness, but I don't think she's still all that great. She's definitely closer to D than I would say C, but I honestly don't think she's as bad as Widow, which I mean, I could be wrong about, but I think Scarlet has more edge use cases than Widow. That and Magneto being such a popular pick at the moment technically gives Magneto like a really good team up, I would say. I think the team up is really good. It's just you kind of have to run Scarlet for it. I wouldn't go out of my way to run it, but if you have a Scarlet player on your team as a Magneto, if I was the Magneto, I wouldn't be necessarily too upset about having it. Let's move on though. Moving on to Spider-Man. Spider-Man, like I said back up when I was talking about Venom and the Thing, I thought this character was going to gain a little bit more popularity in terms of just the dive compositions that are opened up now, especially with Venom being such a strong pick now. I think Spider-Man players get the liberty of having their team up and just having an overall stronger version of Spider-Man. However, I don't think he's as good as some of the characters up top in terms of like Psylocke and Hawkeye. The damage output is still very skill dependent. Like you still need to hit your combos. You need to still be like Spider-Man is still such a very skill dependent character as a whole that not every Spider-Man is going to be doing what you should be doing. And Spider-Man without the Venom is still pretty lackluster. You have to kind of overdo your job, especially with how difficult it is to get kills on as a dive character as it is. And without the Venom team up, I feel like Spider-Man does not have a consistent enough one shot for it to be worth it. He's still pretty decent, and his team up has made him even better, I would say, and his like recent buffs and stuff like that, because he got like a change to his like web shooters, I think it was, which kind of made it better. But I think with Venom being more viable, I think Spider-Man will always, anytime Venom gets a slight upgrade, Spider-Man becomes a little bit better, just because of the fact that you'll often see Venom more, and giving Spider-Man that team up is such a huge buff for Spider-Man as a whole. Moving on to Squirrel Girl. Like before, I was saying Squirrel Girl was slept on in like season 1, but I think right now Squirrel Girl doesn't really do anything. She's kind of in that same situation as like all of these characters down here, where she's cool. If you have a Squirrel Girl player, it deals a lot of damage. It can be annoying. It can deal with dive to some extent, but there's just so many other better picks for dive, like to deal with dive. I think the Squirrel Stampede is kind of a meme. Overall, I don't think she's like super good, but she's also not super bad. She has pretty decent matchups, I would say, into like Magik and Black Panther, even Spider-Man. I will say though, what she does get a little bit of a boost now that Venom and Spider-Man are being played a little bit more together. So she has to do like a triple stun against like other Venoms or like against other tanks, which I think is pretty decent. But I think overall, Squirrel Girl is probably not that great. I would probably put her in like the B tier though, closer to C. But yeah, I think she's decent enough to be still be somewhere in the middle. Starlord. I've been also hinting at this pretty much throughout the entire video. With the triple res comp, Starlord, he's just up there, man. Starlord is probably one of the best DPS at the moment. You can enable him with the triple res. He's still really good without it. The only downside is that in ranked, he's probably not as good because people aren't as good as Starlord. But even then, like his damage output is just really good. Survivability is really good. Ulti is insane. He's just an all-around character. Deals with a lot of things as well. Just kind of no flyers. He's also a no-fly zone kind of character. I believe he can one-clip majority of the supports, if not all of the supports. I'm not too sure though. The spin, his spin move is really good too. Like just using that for like very quick ult charge on big groups. If you have like Magneto shield on you and stuff like that type of coordination. Starlord is just Very good all-around character. Punisher. The Punisher. I think the Punisher is definitely, he's a consistent character. However, and this has been his issue for majority of his time as a character, is that the things that the Punisher does well, almost all of the other higher tier characters do better. For example, like dealing with flyers, almost all of the other people above him deal with flyers much easier. Damage output isn't like super great. It's a consistent damage output, but it's not like super large unless you're giving him like infinite ammo with like a shotgun or something. Then it's like insane and it can break through most of like the tanks and stuff, or just kind of anybody. But I think he's a very consistent and just kind of middle character, and for that I will also put him in the B tier. Him getting paired up with the Rocket obviously propels him forward, but if you're gonna pair up anybody with the Rocket, I do think that it's just better to pair up Bucky with him. Bucky is just overall a better character. I think the turret is still very much kind of bait as well, and the ulti, you kind of need to assist the ulti to ensure that he lives through it, especially with Magneto being such a big pick and being such a big very easy counter to that Punisher ulti. Overall though, I do think he's still pretty solid. You can still run both Bucky and Punisher and instantly shred those walls, and it's just a lot of damage output overall. Tanks don't survive, so that team comp is still really good. Punisher definitely has his place. I just think it's right in the middle. Storm got nerfed, but I still think Storm is pretty good. Her ulti is still really strong. She gives everybody a damage boost. She is probably the only flyer that's relatively viable, despite the fact that she kind of gets shit on by some of the other characters, but she is still really good. I'd probably put her up here in like the A tier. I think she's solid against like pretty much all the other stuff, and her ulti charge is still relatively quick. I feel just her overall utility is just really good, and her ulti also potentially being like a team wipe is just solid. And at the moment, I feel like that's kind of what you need when it comes to your ulti, right? You need like a very solid or consistent team wipe, something that doesn't get completely destroyed by lamps, which I believe Storm destroys the lamps in her ulti as well. So, you know, stuff like that, I think Storm does really well. Her damage output is still really good. She can play really high up, or she can play defensively really low, which I don't think some of the other flyers can really do. But yeah, I think Storm is just really solid all around. Probably the best flyer in the game at the moment. Let's talk about Bucky. Bucky is just a ranged Wolverine. He is a kidnapper, does not let you stick with your team, deals a shit ton of damage, has ult resets, right? Like everybody has the again PTSD. Bucky is just an all-around character with very good damage. Can, like, as long as the Bucky is hitting hooks, like it's insane. But Bucky is such a good character right now. He's just a very solid choice for any Bucky players. He's honestly relatively simple to pick up and play. There are some nuances when it comes to Bucky, but I think overall he's just a very solid pick for anybody to pick up and just start slamming, as well as the existence of Loki. The existence of Loki gives so much value to a Bucky ulti now that the Bucky gets the resets off of the Loki clones. It's just like, with Bucky now being very common in the meta, Bucky just gets a lot more value just as a whole. His ultis can get extended even longer. Like, Loki can't just stop using his clones. Like, he has to in order to get any sort of real value. So you'll always have clones to reset off of, unless your teammates grief you and kill the clones, or you have to use the clones really early to get your resets. But overall, I think just Bucky is just really strong, has a really good matchups as a whole. Wolverine, I think Wolverine is still really good. Do I think he's permaban worthy? I don't think so. Personally, I don't. Not anymore. I think with Magneto being really good and the Thing being really good, like, I think you can get away without banning Wolverine. However, it's ranked, so games are a lot more hectic and all over the place, so I don't blame people banning Wolverine nonstop, because it's just one less. Like, Wolverine thrives in situations where chaos is happening, right? Like, the chaos allows Wolverine to get away with so much. So I think, like, he's still like a top tier, like, S character. He still shits on the tanks. He has a even against the Thing, like I mentioned when I was talking about the Thing, he has a pretty decent matchup against Thing. I don't think the Thing is a direct counter to Wolverine as much as people might think. And with Groot being one of the best characters in the game at the moment, I think Wolverine has one of the best matchups against Groot, being able to get to 100 rage just off of Groot walls, being able to destroy Groot walls pretty fast as well. Just Wolverine has good matchups right now, despite Magneto existing and giving bubbles and stuff like that. So Wolverine is still up top, one of the better characters in the game. Mr. Fantastic, I think, is straight dog, D for dog. They changed him, and I think unanimously all of the Fantastic players don't like him anymore. I remember reading a lot of just backlash over the Mr. Fantastic changes to where it's just not really much anymore. This guy should have been a tank. Like, I don't think he's really a good, like a well-suited DPS. He has good matchups against the melee characters, but who the fuck is playing melee right now? Melee is in a really tough spot, and he's a melee character himself. So when your best matchups are bad characters, you are that much worse of a character. Just Mr. Fantastic gets 0 value. He is played as a pretend off tank, which is, oof, that's so bad. If you have like a solo tank with a read, you can kind of get away with it, but most of the time you would almost much rather having the Thing or the Venom or the Strange or the Groot, any of them, just please pick a second tank. Like, it is impossible sometimes. And when you have 2 tanks, read, and then another DPS, it's such low damage. It's such low damage that you are lacking so much. You're lacking in so much damage. It's very unfortunate. It is super unfortunate. Okay, let's talk about Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm. Where would I put Johnny Storm at? I think Johnny Storm is actually pretty decent. I don't think he's like really bad. I played a fair bit when he released. I think what is very odd about Johnny Storm in particular is that he has very weird ranges. I couldn't fully come to like a pure understanding of what range he wants to be played at, because he has the full dive to explode his right clicks, and then his left click is like a shotgun, but if you do it from really far, it's kind of useless and hits nothing. If you do it from really close, it's like pretty decent, but because it's a shotgun. But like it's such a weird playstyle that you kind of have to mix yourself into. But I'm sure the Johnny mains at this point kind of have a decent range figured out. I think playing, further is definitely better. I think a lot of people have foregone primarily using the left click. I think the left click is just kind of to pepper some damage, and I think primarily a lot of the damage does come from right clicks, which I think is like probably the better way. He does have a lot of good aerial denial, really sets up ultis pretty fast, I would say, if he's using his aerial denial really well. The damage he can I think he can one shot like execute some people if you explode enough right clicks with your dash, with your dive. So there is some like bright sides to this character. And he teams up really well with Storm. Obviously that Storm ult is like really good. But unfortunately, I think Flyers are in a really bad spot, as I've been mentioning throughout the tier list, and just as a whole, he's rough, right? Like, I think Spider-Man being also just more viable now as well, now that the Venom team up is out there. Like, I think he just shits on Flyers as well. So you're gonna have that Spider-Man on your ass 24/7. Psylocke is still really good. Hawkeye is still really good. Hela is really good. All these characters deal with Flyers so well that the Human Torch is like feels impossible to play against these. But for that, I think I'll put Johnny in like B. I think he's still like middle of the pack. Honestly, I think he's still better than like all of these guys down here. He definitely has his uses, and overall, he can be good. And the Johnny Storm team up is pretty decent, but the problem is just you're giving up 2 ultis for it every time. And in a competitive game, like a ranked competitive game, it's not gonna happen often. like realistically, it's not going to happen often. That, you know, both of your DPSs charging their ultis at very similar times is not going to be as consistent as people think, or isn't as consistent as people might think. Ideally, you would want the two. You would want your DPS players to be like, you know, generating their ults around the same time. But that's all up to player skill, right? And it's such a variance that you can't guarantee it all the time. And by itself, the ult isn't super great. At least in my opinion, it doesn't feel super great. So I think he's right in the middle, probably even C. But I'm not too comfortable putting him down with like Moon Knight and Scarlet and Iron Man. But yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with the list as it is. If you like the video, please feel free to subscribe. If you don't, it's okay. That's no problem. I stream on Twitch. Please feel free to follow me there if you can. And if not, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.